everybody. Happy Thursday. Get started shortly. Let this populate with all the attendees. We have about 30. And just a reminder to please raise your hand and we will call on you. Okay, we're going to start with Thomas Harding, Rockies.com.
All right, buddy. Hey, just a couple of questions, some housekeeping things. First of all, in right field, not knowing when Charlie will be here, what would be the plan there if he's not ready to start the season? And is there any update on it?
No update on Charlie. The plan would be we have a number of guys who can play right field. Hilliard, very familiar with right field. It's been great over the years that, our minor league system has moved our outfielders through all three positions. So all the guys who've come up through our system are able to play pretty much all outfield positions, if they're outfielders. Hampson's a little bit different. I like Hampson in center and left, but Tapia, Dahl, Hilliard, can all play right. Kemp, if he makes the roster, he's most comfortable in right, so he can play right. Chris Owings, most comfortable in right, can play center, least comfortable in left, but is taking a lot of balls off the bat and drills in left field to get comfortable there. So, Thomas, we have a lot of options, but I'm still optimistic that Charlie is going to be able to be on the roster and be able to, play right field.
Yeah, when would what date would you expect for him to be in, to have enough time to be ready?
Depends on the shape he's in. We'll assess that. I don't want to put a hard date on that, but, leading up to, Charlie not feeling well, he was in great shape, swinging the bat, getting a lot of reps here at Coors Field, hitting, throwing, running, getting ready for, whenever spring was going to start. So I think it will be a pretty quick ramp up for Chuck.
Hey, one other thing, and I could have missed him obviously with the staggered workouts, but just watching the intra squad yesterday, didn't see Rogers. How is he doing right now, and where does he fit in that infield mix?
Rogers doing great. He looks really, really good. He played yesterday he played yesterday midday in a real short simulated game. This afternoon, you'll see him playing again. He'll get some competitive at-bats again today, but he looks good. I mean, the arm is fine. We have him moving around second and short. Looks good throwing the ball. He's moving well, his legs, swinging the bat great. So I'm encouraged about where Brendan is. I think in spring training, he was still, progressing with the arm, but now I think talking to Keith, the arm is full go, no restrictions, and he's confident in his ability to throw and to play, with his arm.
Hey, buddy, who's throwing today in simulated type?
Tom, I don't got the list, but there's about 9 or 10 guys. Well, actually,
Okay.
There's more than that, because I think there's 5. There's 5 here in about an hour, and then there's another 8 or 9 this evening. I don't know all the names.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.
Nick Groke, The Athletic.
Yeah, a couple of follow-ups with that, buddy. Is Charlie able to do anything right now at all in Georgia as far as baseball stuff?
Again, I'm not at liberty to say, but if I know Charlie, he's doing everything he can to stay in shape.
Okay. And since we didn't ask you yesterday, between yesterday and today, is there anybody else who else is not available at camp?
Nobody new from yesterday.
Okay. And then speaking of Brendan Rodgers, if for instance Trevor needs a day at some point. How does your shortstop position line up?
Between Rogers, Hampson, and Owings, all very capable of playing shortstop. We feel as though we're protected there. You know, if something does happen to Trevor, knock on wood, cross your fingers, all those things. But those guys are all natural shortstops. So we got 3 guys there who can play short.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mark Kisla, Denver Post.
Hey, buddy. We all remember a couple years, October of 2018, when John Gray got left off that playoff roster and how disappointed he was. How have you seen him grow as a pitcher and I guess as a person too in the nearly 2 years since?
God, I'm glad you asked that question, or just about John. I think John's in a really good spot. You know, I've 3 years here now with John, working on our 4th. You know, before I got here, right, I think the last game of 16, he punched out 16. The last game of the year, I believe, or his last start. And then we've seen some, great outings, and we've seen John get, roughed up a little bit. But I think, last year, up until he hurt his foot, he was throwing the ball great. And I think now, what we saw in spring training, what we see now, just the conversations, the maturity, the confidence, things are, for me, Mark, are really falling into place for John. And I think it's, just growth, of a young man who, from the time he was drafted until now, there were some bumps in the road and, self-admitted. I think John's been, pretty open and honest with the media and open and honest with us. And, not that I'm going to share everything that we've talked about and all the things that he's been through. But, it's just the growth of a player. And, every player's unique in their career, especially, on or off the field. But as far as John, I believe he's in a really good spot. And I'm excited to see this unfold, through this 60 games and then beyond, 2021 and moving forward. If he stays healthy, I think there's good things ahead for John Gray.
Thanks.
Kevin Henry, Rocks Pile.
Hey, buddy. Chris Owings seems to get brought up every once in a while whenever we're talking about versatility and who can play where and what it might be. Do you see that he can bring something to this team in terms of not only veteran leadership, even though he's still, late 20s, but what else do you see that he brings to the team from your vantage point?
I think first and foremost, any player, they want to bring performance. The last couple of years have been a little rough in that regard for Chris, but I think in spring training 1, we saw, especially the last couple games before the shutdown, really swinging the bat well. And I think what we've seen here just in the 5 days, I think the bat's going to play. I think being reunited with Mags and him again, some self admitted maybe overcorrections or doing some things different with his swing over the last couple of years put him in a bad spot. I think he's, in a much better spot now with his swing. He and Mags can probably speak a little bit more to that than I can about, the real intricacies of what they're doing, some of the mechanics there. Mm-hmm. But, this guy's got some pop in his bat. He plays a, high energy game. He's always, from the other side, I always thought he was a little, thorn in your side because he's got some power, he's got speed. You look at the lineup card every day, and he's at second, he's at short, and he's in the outfield. But he was always sort of playing, and always played well. A few years ago, and again, I think he got off track a little bit. But now hopefully he's back. But again, I think he's built the right way as far as how to play this game. he does great things on the base paths. You know, he's versatile as a defender. And again, I think he has something to prove. You know, I think that's a big thing. I think he has, you know, the second part of his career, you know, might be starting now. And I really think he has something to prove.
Thanks, buddy.
Patrick Saunders, Denver Post.
Hey, buddy. Following up real quickly on Charlie, I have a two-part question. One, what are the guidelines or the rules, if you will, for you or Jeff Bryant, Trevor, to be able to talk about Charlie, whoever else with the coronavirus? Second part of the question, you mentioned, I think this is the first time anybody said this, he has not been feeling well. I think everybody, Rockies fans and media included, kind of want to get an idea of where Charlie is. So can you give us anything more or not?
No, I can't. I think, and I think it's out there until, you know, I think that's up to the player, you know, how much they want to talk about, you know, their situation. So I can't speak to it. As far as some of the protocols and what players have to go through as far as like a reentry, I mean, you know, this is part of the 150-page document that, you know, I'm not completely up to speed on. You know, Keith and our medical team, you know those knows you know those practices of what has to occur. But as far as speaking specifically about, you know, anybody who's tested positive, we're not at liberty to talk about it.
Okay, a full 180 from that question. What is your feeling about the so-called California tiebreaker in extra innings that's going to be implemented in this shortened season?
Well, I didn't know it was called the California tiebreaker.
I thought, isn't that what people call it? Something like that?
Is that what it's called? You know, I'm a traditionalist at heart, but again, I'm flexible and I can make adjustments, and we will. As a matter of fact, I was talking to, you know, a couple coaches just this afternoon about it, about some of the, you know, percentages and some other things that go along with that. So I'm looking forward to it. I am. It's not something that I'm going to think negative of because it's right there in front of us. So I'm going to embrace it, and our players and I and the coaching staff will talk about it a little bit moving forward about what this means. But obviously, as you know, I mean, when this happens, there's going to be a tremendous amount of strategy, you know, with this. As far as, and you can only imagine, you know, you want the right hitter at the plate. I sense there's going to be a ton of intentional walks. There could be some pitching changes in there. I'll bet, you know, facing three guys. You know, there's going to be a lot of strategy with this that might end up being pretty fun. So I'm sort of looking forward to it in some ways.
And then, of course, you'd have to determine who you want to put on second base to get all this started. That's a big part of it.
I think
too.
that is, you know, that is the last guy who
Oh, it is. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think you can pinch run for that fella. Then he's in the game. But is the guy who made the last out goes to second.
Okay. Thank you, buddy.
And Patrick, I'm sure we'll talk all about this after a game, about why we did certain things and so forth.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll look forward to that.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna do two more to get Buddy out at 2:55. Nick Rothschild, Channel 7.
Hey, thanks. Hey, buddy. Heading into these simulated games, are you looking for anything specific, or do you just kind of want to see competition, competitiveness, baseball shape, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think the thing that we're really focused on, you know, are basically three things. And you said one of them. I think, you know, the guys got to get back into baseball shape. So, you know, you'll see guys playing defense. They're on their legs. They're, you know, they're out there, you know, for, you know, periods of time, and we'll sort of ramp that up, you know, the next couple of weeks as far as the time, because the guys got to be ready to play a 3-hour ball game. You know, we want the at bats to be competitive, and yesterday was, you know, a good indication of that. I don't know if you were here or not or saw some highlights, but, Nolan and Trev and Mac and Kemp, and, these guys got 5-6 at-bats yesterday against our pitchers who were throwing, with intensity. So it was great. So, the baseball shape, we got to get back into that. The competitive at-bats that were apparent last night, was great. And the pitching coaches and our pitchers, trying to strategize a little bit against our hitters and making pitches. So, those three things are what we're trying to accomplish.
Thanks, buddy.
Rod Mackey, last question, Channel 9.
Yeah, buddy, following up a little bit on those simulated games. We've seen you guys make big steps in the short time you've been out there at Coors Field. What kind of a jump are you seeing the players make now versus, for instance, what you saw in March? Are they progressing faster because they were able to stay in shape and did have that time at spring training under their belt?
Yeah, it's a combination. I think, all players look at the calendar and they know, when opening day is, and there's markers along the way. Even for us as coaches, where we want players to be as we map out a 6-week spring training, and even having guys in Scottsdale even prior to the 6 weeks. Guys are there starting early, working out. But in this case, with relatively, short period of time, 20, 21 days, guys know that our first game is July 24th. And they know how they want to feel, just based on their own personal experience, how they want to feel and need to feel going into a major league game that's going to count. The stats are going to go on the back of their baseball card, and they want to be ready. So, the intensity is there, the work is there as we go through each and every one of these days. And same with the pitchers. They're getting their work in. So, the challenge is to ramp that up at a level where, physically we're not wearing them down too early. So there's a process that the coaches and I, with input from the players about their workload each and every day to get to where we need to be. But, I've been really impressed by our group with the energy level, the work ethic, how they're going about it, because they know that, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we're going to be in Texas playing, in a brand new ballpark that's going to be, televised and covered, and this is going to count. So they're in a good spot mentally and physically right now, and a lot of that is, from what they did, the 3 months, prior to this individually, that to get them in this position to be ready. So I commend our players that the 3 months they were out, wherever they were. Oberg back in, New Jersey, Nolan in Orange County, Trevor in Texas, guys all over, Tapia and Dominican. I mean, these guys put the work in. It was great. So, again, cross our fingers that, we stay healthy here these next 2 weeks and we can go down to Texas with a full squad that feels good about themselves physically and fundamentally, and with a lot of confidence. And I think that right now we're in a pretty good spot. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay, guys,
buddy.
got to
Have a good
roll.
day. Thank you.
Enter a simulated game in about an hour.